Hello, everybody. Sorry we're late. This is Rumors versus Facts, presented by UJSports.com. My name is Rodney Nabulsi. I'm joined by Jed May, Lance McCurley, and Trent Smallwood, your three amigos of the Georgia recruiting beat. Although there needs to be something besides amigos for guys who spend all their time apart on the road. You know, we're always out traveling, and they've been an absolute road warrior crew getting out and seeing guys. Especially Jed and Lance, they've been all over the place. Jed's going back on the road. Spend the night?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tonight? Yeah, then he's back on the road. I appreciate all of our readers and sponsors for giving us the gas money to get out and see all these people. So thank you, folks, very much. If you're not a member of UJSports.com, it's only 27 cents a day. We don't need that much. And you, too, can send Jed all the way down to see a 17-year-old kid and talk football. So
yeah, that's the dream.
Be a sponsor. Last week on this show, we did a late show. We did Thursday because we had these guys were on the road Monday, as was I. So everybody was busy Monday. So we did the show on Thursday, and we told you Georgia should be on commit watch. Then we found out that Thomas Blackshear was announcing. Well, we knew he was announcing, but we knew that the Georgia needed to be on the lookout for him to possibly commit on Sunday. He did on Mother's Day. Very sweet. We love it. Thomas Blackshear, a fantastic guy. We were sitting there watching his film last week, and we all yelled at Jed for ranking him too low. This is absolutely Jed's fault because as loyal viewers of Rumors versus Facts understand that all the rivals' rankings are solely Jed May's responsibilities. And if you have any issues, please address them to jedmay@gmail.com and send him all your hate. Yeah, we got Randy Payne, eat off the floor in 24, Go Dogs from Tifton, Georgia. Jed, you're going to be close to Tifton, so stop by and see Randy when you get a chance. And this question, of course, who's next? Let's do this real quick, guys. Give me your thoughts on Thomas Blackshear, the three-star wide receiver committed to Georgia. We'll start with Jed.
Yeah, well, he's a guy who hasn't had necessarily the I don't want to say fame, the publicity maybe of some of the other top targets in this class, like a Travis Smith, like a CJ Wiley, even a Taylor Taylor. But he's a guy that James Coley and the staff are very high on. He told you, Lance, 2 or 3 weeks ago that the staff has compared him to George Pickens. Trent, you said last week you see a little bit of J.J. Holloman in him, but he is not necessarily as tall as some of these other guys, but still a big kind of filled out body, can play outside, get the ball, run through contact, and get it. Through make contested catches, I guess I should say. So first receiver on board. And I think I said this last week. This is going to be a class where guys who want in need to get in and get their spots. Cause I think this is really one of the scenarios where there might be more people who want in than there are spots, at least as far as receivers go. And Thomas Blackshear wasted no time. He's like, screw it. I want to be a dog. And, jumped on board and got a spot. So again, I said it last week. You got to love when there's an onside kick highlight.
You see me double clicking on it. I'm watching it again over and over and over again. That's just that's beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that kicker
him.
I did to do that.
Not for that returner that just hit him right in the chest.
Yeah. Here's the downside. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with this. Huddle wasn't a thing when we were coming up. To be somebody else's highlight reel. Some of these kids watching David Sanders throw them around, shake them like rag dolls, man. I don't want to beat that guy. We're going to talk about Isaiah Gibson in a minute. Lance was filming clips of him just throwing people around. I'm like, man, those are his teammates that he's embarrassing. You don't want to be part of an Isaiah Gibson highlight reel, but thank God I don't have to. You guys have to deal with that crap. I don't have to deal with that. Lance, give me your thoughts on Thomas Blackshear.
I mean, just look at it right there. For those that aren't watching, just back when he was at Benedictine, just take, a punt return, kick return, all the way back to the house. I think this kid is underrated. He can do it. I think he can do it all. And I think he's a great blocker too, which is great for him because if he does in fact sign with Georgia, I know he's committed, but long 8 months. But I mean, Kirby Smart likes a wide receiver that can block, and he's not afraid to tell you that. So this is he has kind of all the tools. I've talked to Mark Stroud, his head coach down there, he's now at Calvary Day, and he had nothing but positive things to say about Thomas. And Thomas himself was kind of a nice, down to earth kid. So I think that this is a good match for Georgia.
I think that the interesting part of his game is he has the straight line speed.
We're seeing that here. If you're listening to the audio version of this, we're just watching clips of him just fly past guys, and he's bigger than a lot of them too.
Yeah, and when we talked about his frame, I mean, height wise, I think Jed said he's around 6'1", maybe 6'2", but probably 6'1". But built, I mean, just frame wise, he looks like he's ready to come in and play in the SEC, tomorrow. And what I like about his game is the wiggle when in open space. I mean, the ability to make people miss. You can tell he's got short area quickness right there. Just able to wow.
Odell, back to that ball. Jeez, I gotta watch that. Give me a second.
But he has like all the parts of the game. He's able to high point balls. He's able to make people miss in the open field. I think the ability to make people miss in the open field is what kind of turns me away from the George Pickens comparison, because Pickens was unreal with ball skills, but he wasn't necessarily a kid that's just going to shake you after the catch. So that's why I thought more J.J. Holloman. I even a little AD Mitchellish, but it's just very his whole game's like it's just a complete game from being able to do all different kind of things. You can line them up all over the field, and I think that's the versatility that Georgia looks for. In all areas of the game. If the offensive line, when you're looking at, they want to cross train people. They look at defensive back. They want to cross train people from safety to star to corner, and then I think he just brings a dimension to the wide receiver room where he can play. He can play on the outside. You can line him up on the inside. You can run jet sweeps with him. You can do a lot of things with this kid.
Mm-hmm. F. Marshall says he played with Little League with Blackshear's father down in Savannah. Look, give me any kid out of Savannah. Give me any kid out of South Georgia. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that as like the cool thing to say or the glib thing to say. I'm just telling you, those kids come out of there and they play a brand of football that is physical. It's not – I mean, they are well traveled and well coached so that they come – it's not just raw athletic talent and all the kids out of Cobb County or Gwinnett are finesse players. These kids are very, very good at what they do, but they also, to your point, you can't just be – when you have to play both ways a lot, like you do in some of these South Georgia teams, you can't come and just be a X receiver, or Z receiver who just that's all you got to do. I mean, you're going to have to play special teams. You're going to have to return punts and get return kicks, get your head knocked off, crack back a few guys on blocking, play a little defense, play a little safety.
And you look at Georgia's recent players from Savannah. It's not only the physicality they play with, it's the mentality they play with. I mean, you look at Kamari Laster, you look at Nolan Smith, you look at those guys from Savannah that they come in as leaders. They come in, they know football. They know how to. I mean, if you put them as a coach on the field, I mean, they're best. That's what they are, and they are. Those kids are different. I mean,
I will give North Florida credit for the same thing. Or Eastern Alabama. Give me those kids. They just come out. They're tough. I'll take a kid out of the Auburn area, Columbus, Jacksonville, Lake City, Troup County. Come on. Warner Robins. I know this.
Cedartown.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Cedartown.
Oh, Cartersville. But yeah, so I want to add on to what Trent was saying. We talked about, these guys are multiple. They can play everywhere. And they come in physical. So a kid like Blackshear, we may have him as a 3-star, but come on, that kid he's a baller. He can play. We may wind up having to fire Jed for only ranking him a 3-star, but hey, so be it. Well, we can find a new Jed. But this is I'm kind of excited about this kid because I'll take any kid out of that area. Give me a guy that wants to play like that. And to your point, when you say look at where they recruit everywhere else, I know you guys have done it. You've you've heard me do it. I've heard you do it 1,000 times. Hey, where does Georgia see you play it? And you're talking to an offensive lineman. Well, they like me at guard. They also like me at tackle. I could probably play center. Hey, where do you play? Well, I could play, I could move down to the nose, but they like me as a 3. Then they want me to bump out to 5 technique. Which do they want you linebacker, inside or outside? Well, we talked at inside, with Glenn Schumann, but then Uzo Deribe was talking to me at outside. You're right. Every one of these kids they're going after is multiple. And I really think that goes back to how Georgia approaches this. They approach it like an NFL team. Yes, they have 85 spots versus 53, but they want, the NFL wants 53 guys who can play multiple spots because you're limited in your number of guys. Kirby wants the same thing. He wants this guy, hey, can you play the slot? Can you line up way outside on your own, beat a man in press coverage? I think this is a good addition.
Funny thing is, it's not only just the position. Like the offense, defense, the special teams as well.
Mhm.
When we talk to kickers and punters in the past, I like the way you hold the ball as a punter. Holding field goals, or I like the way. They want kids doing multiple things, and it's all every scholarship, non-scholarship player. They train them all the same way, and they're training them all for versatility and see what mix works the best.
Hey, we got Coach Hayes is weighing in. We always love to hear from him. He said this is a solid youngin at almost 200 pounds too. Physical kid with soft hands, runs hard after the catch. Well, if Coach says it, then it's true, and that's exactly what he says in 17 words what I was trying to say in a 5-minute diatribe. So appreciate that. Shout out to our friends at How About Them Miffin Dogs podcast. We appreciate him too. Randy's a good guy, and here's a good one. Let's move on from Thomas Blackshear. He's in the fold. There was a question earlier. I want to jump up to that one from Jeremy Barbary. How many receivers in this class? Everybody.
I think it's going to depend on how many do you think you're going to lose? How many do you want to say 1 spot for a portal guy? You want to say 2 spots for a portal guy? I would say at least 3, probably 4 would be my guess. And then, but I don't know. It could end up being you take your best 2 and then you save a couple spots for the portal. I don't think anything is set. I don't think there's a set number there right now. It's okay, we are taking this many guys. I think it's still kind of up in the air a little bit, but I would guess at least 3.
How many are you losing? It seems like you're losing.
That's the next thing I want to say.
Lovett, Arian Smith. Rara was only a redshirt sophomore last year.
Yeah, he could come back.
They could come back, but you're losing. What is Colby Young? You're losing. I would say 4 at minimum. That's just me thinking out loud from the numbers that they're working with, and transfers they lost last year, possible transfers after this year. I would say 4 to be safe, but again, they've held out spots like Jed says for the transfer portal, and they've landed some dudes in the transfer portal. So, you're losing the kid. What's the kid from USC? I don't even know what these kids are. What?
Johnson.
So London Humphreys will be around. Michael Jackson and Kobe Young could both be gone. But how many? You signed 3 receivers last year, right?
Yes.
No, it was just 2, wasn't it?
No, yeah, it was Nitro Tuttle and Kobe White. Not Carr.
My apologies. What I meant was 3 the year prior.
Yes.
You have 1 left. Haynes
is gone. It's Anthony Evans.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, Evans.
Gone.
That was not Zeke. So Anthony Evans. So you signed 3. You only kept 1. You got 2 last year. So over your last 2 recruiting classes, you have 3 sophomore and 2 freshmen. That is not exactly a loaded class. So to me, I could see 5. It's tough to get the 5th guy at a school like Georgia. So I'm with you, Jed. Hey, maybe go to the portal because you signed 5 wide receivers out of the portal the last 2 years. So if you can't get them on the first go around, you definitely get them on the second. But I could see the need. You're like, hey, we're going to shoot for 4, but it's always tough to get that 5th. But I said the same thing about an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, and they wound up signing 6 offensive linemen and 5 defensive linemen. So what the hell do we know?
I just feel like, with the guys that they've been going after, the number of guys that they've been going after, the number of guys they sit well for, and taking, Blackshear, that was just kind of a. I know it's been learned for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it's just kind of he's not the name that's been discussed over the past 6 months, and I feel you're not just going to take 2 more while just popping up taking it. I just think there's going to be with Wiley sitting there, with your 2 in-state guys sitting there, and like Talon Taylor and those type guys. I think you're just going to see 4 in this class, unless you just miss on 1 or 2 of these in-state guys, and I could see the number getting lower. But if you hit both these in-state guys, I think they take 4 at the minimum.
Oh, works for me. That kind of moved me into this question here from KC. Says I'm a little biased with the kids from Southwest DeKalb.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we just have a story on him?
Yep.
Yeah, we did. Sam Turner from Southwest DeKalb, who's camping. What's the date today? In 2 weeks ish. To re-earn his offer, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't mind. I've doubted my whole life. I'm ready to earn it." And I think that's another guy who, if he camps and re-earns the offer and becomes a take, like I think Georgia would be in a really good spot for him if they want him. I mean, he doesn't hold the whole camping for an offer thing against him. It doesn't sound like so. He really likes Georgia. Really like Brian McClendon. In-state program, obviously. Quincy Carter's got the connections there. I think he coaches at Southwest DeKalb now. So, yeah, and this is a guy that, and Lance, you've talked to Tyler Williams, who's another one who's a really talented guy who doesn't even really get mentioned because there's so many guys
just
ahead of him on the priority. I mean, Eugene Hilton is another one who we thought might be ready to commit when he visited a few weeks ago, and he didn't. So there's just so many guys. If they want 4 or 5, or up to that many, I think they will fill out the class with enough guys. It's just how many do you want, and who decides to jump in the boat first. But yeah, talking about Sam Turner specifically, he's really good. Trent, we all saw him at the Rivals camp. He was really good. He was really good at the Under Armour camp in Charlotte yesterday.
I came away from that interview before the camp started, and I was like, "Yeah, George, this is something that Georgia's told him to come back." He said Georgia honored my offer from Brian McClendon, but I was like, "Yeah, this is going to be something that he has to camp and he has to come back and work out for that offer." And I'm like, then he gets out in the field, and I'm like, "This kid's really good. Like he is really good." And I mean, and the defensive backs at that camp were top notch, like, and he was winning every rep. And so, I think Samuel Turner's really good. I think he's going to camp well because he did camp well. And if you take, I mean, you give me those 4 in-state guys, you got a dang good wide receiver class. Yeah. Even if you don't go outside the state, you give me Sam Turner and Blackshear and the other 2, and you got a dang good wide receiver class, and you don't even have to leave the state.
Now, speaking of in-state guys that we were talking about, let's talk about CJ Wiley. He's been – I saw him this past weekend – or no, Friday. It wasn't a weekend. It was Friday. Spoke to him a little bit. Really wanted to find out what's going on with LSU. He was wearing LSU slides. He's I think his mom went there. Has some serious connections. He's also talked about USC. He has family connections on the West Coast. Loves USC, but has never visited there. Likes Florida State. Loves what Florida State's doing. Loves their offense. And, of course, he talks to James Coley, the Georgia wide receivers coach, every day. Jed, you saw him in action. I saw him at a track meet. You saw him in action yesterday. Folks that didn't catch it, when we started the show, we mentioned the fact that Jed was actually in Charlotte yesterday watching the Under Armour camp. So, Jed's, I know you spoke to CJ. Kind of give us the latest there. I know you'll have a kind of an update here in a while, but thoughts on CJ Wiley maybe being in this class for Georgia.
Yeah, he kind of popped up as a late addition to the Charlotte camp, and I think the LSU thing has kind of been, I guess, I don't want to say they're charging, but it's kind of he didn't have an official set for them, and then he flipped out his Alabama visit for an LSU official visit, and then switched that weekend with the Georgia weekend. So the LSU visit, or the Georgia official visit, excuse me, is now June 7th through 9th. The LSU one is the weekend after that. And LSU, like you said, Rowdy, he's got connections there. Cortez Hankton is doing a good job. And when you talked to him at the track meet, he said something. He's all about development, and James Coley's done a great job. And it's like, oh yeah, but Cortez Hankton's had 2 first-rounders. So that part of it, Cortez Hankton can check that box. And I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure Brian Kelly had some talented receivers at Notre Dame. LSU obviously has had some with Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, those guys. So development, you could definitely sell at both places. And I think this is one where LSU is trying to make a charge, but is Georgia going to have the staying power to withhold? I still like where Georgia's at, but they're going to have to hold off this LSU charge for sure.
I'm assuming when you were talking about the other 2 Georgia wide receivers, Trent, you meant Travis Smith as well.
Yep, Travis Smith.
All right. So you could, to your earlier thought, if you could land Sam Turner, Thomas Blackshear, C.J. Wiley, and Travis Smith Jr. Yeah, I think that's lights out. But again, that's leaving 4 or 5 guys off the chart.
Yeah, and I know there's not a true slot guy in there, but I do think Blackshear is a guy that can play in the slot, like we talked about earlier. And but you're getting guys that you haven't had in the past, like the size. You've landed a lot of 6'1" wide receivers, and getting up there, 6'3", 6'4" range. The smallest one being Blackshear at 6'1". You're landing some size in the class with those 4 guys, and that's something that Georgia hasn't been able to go out and do. Just land those guys you can throw jump balls to, and that's the reason why they've hit the portal for them.
I'm right there. Israel says it looks like Hilton is looking at Clemson. I can see Eugene Hilton looking that way. Eugene Hilton, his dad did play for the Colts. That would be your slot guy in this class. Although, his dad would be a perfect slot guy. His dad was amazing, but he's not a huge kid. He's bigger than his dad, but I could definitely see him there. But yeah, he did come to Georgia. He was there. We saw him watching practice, and I put in a future cast for him because I was told this kid's ready to go. He's ready to pick the Bulldogs. It's going to be done. And I think he may have been told to hold off. So I can't guarantee that. Or is one of the situations like he's ready? Hey, I'm ready to commit. And they're like, we'd really like to see you come camp.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He was told to come camp this summer.
And some kids don't want to do that. That's why I'm so excited about Sam Turner's, not him personally, but his attitude. Kid at Southwest DeKalb, had an offer. They want him to come improve or show the new coaching staff, the new James Coley, what you can do. You showed Brian McClendon. Brian McClendon thought you were good enough. James Coley would like to see it. And Sam Turner's like, yeah, I'll come. I'll re-earn it. I'll prove that offer was legit. And I'm not going to hold it against you that you want to see what I can do. And I'm like, okay, this is the right attitude. Thomas Blackshear has the right attitude. C.J. Wiley's got the right attitude. Talon Taylor's got it. So we're looking at a pretty good receiver class for Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But any other comments on receivers before we move on?
I just feel like
go ahead, Lance.
I just feel like these 4 that you guys mentioned. I mean, you look back at that. Was it the 2020 class when Georgia landed Jermaine Burton, Ladd McConkey, Justin Robinson, Marcus Rosemy-Jackson?
Yeah, definitely something like that because he was a freshman and when he broke his leg.
Yeah, so whatever class that was, I think that was a talented wide receiver class. But if you get these 4, or maybe substitute 1 for Talon Taylor or Tyler Williams or even Eugene Hilton, that's a pretty good haul. And if you get any combination of those 4 of those 7 guys, I think they're all studs, and that might be one of the better hauls, I think, wide receiver for Georgia in program history.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about Tyler Williams completely. Who else were we missing, Jed, in our list?
There's Javen Boggs, who was committed to Ohio State, and you think he visited Georgia like a few days after decommitting from Ohio State. and he's got an official visit set. There's him. Marcus Harris, a receiver from Mater Dei, who's going to be on an official visit this weekend. Phillip Bell, a California receiver, is going to be on an official visit this weekend. There's so many. There's the narrative of like, oh, Georgia can't get receivers, and it seems I'm gonna throw it out there. It seems impossible to think of a way where Georgia doesn't land like 3 or 4 top, I don't know, 200 guys, 250 guys. I mean, I don't know where all these guys are ranked in my rankings, but
It's going to depend on you, Ed. I mean, because Thomas Blackshear's got to get a little boot.
Well, yeah, that's true, and he will go up. Yeah,
Get the jet
the Georgia jump is percolating there, but there's so many guys out there. I mean, again, we're talking about Eugene Hilton as like an afterthought almost, and he is really, really, really good. Sam Turner is really, really good. So there's a lot of talented guys. It's going to be interesting to see who the final 3, 4, 5, whatever ends up being.
Yeah, that was just a kiss of death right there, and they're going to sign 2 guys, and they'll all both be out of the top 250. And we'll be able to clip this and go, Jed ruined it. Love it. All right. Real quick, I want to, before we got some fun stuff to talk about Isaiah Gibson and some of the other guys that we need to mention, but I do want to mention our friends real quick at the Rogue Shop. Rogue Shop is the sponsor for Rumors versus Facts. They are an online dispensary. They do great work. It is a former he doesn't like me talking about his military career, but he's a veteran, hurt his back in the Army, was having issues with pain, and did all the pain meds, did all that stuff, and just wasn't having good results with it. Then found out that the cannabinoids are a good anti-inflammatory, built a company around it. So if you go to the Rogue Shop and use promo code Bulldogs10, you get 10% off. And of course, they have the CBD oils. They have the CBD topicals, that you can put on. If you got arthritis, you can put it on there. If you have a bad knee, you could do that. The oils for people like CBD, they have good stuff, and it's very high quality. This isn't the stuff you see at like strip malls and gas stations and bull crap like that. This guy it's him and his wife. They do very high-end products. They have the Delta 8 products. Those are made with THC derived from hemp. If you have chronic pain, you have sleep issues, check out our friends at the Rogue Shop. I guarantee that you'll be very, very impressed with the products they have. They have chocolate gummies, they have regular gummies, they have vape pens, they have the whole 9 yards. Just go to the Rogue Shop, check it out. Remember, use promo code Bulldogs10, and you will be very, very happy that you did so, especially if you can't sleep or you have chronic pain. Then you'll love us. You will love us for having them as a sponsor. Absolutely. All right, I want to switch gears and get away from the wide receivers and talk about Isaiah Gibson a little bit. He's committed Southern Cal. Lance, how committed is he?
Doesn't sound that committed, to be completely honest. He's wearing a Southern Cal sleeve when I went to Warner Robins. I think it was Wednesday. But there were Florida State coaches there. Former Georgia coach Rodney Garner. Is he at Tennessee now?
He's been at Tennessee for the last 75 years.
He was there. And Isaiah. I talked to Isaiah after he committed to USC the same day that Georgia commit 5-star defensive lineman Justice Terry flipped, and I asked him about that, and he said, well, we went out there and, it just happened to be kind of at the same time. It wasn't planned, but he said that, if you read my story from over the weekend, not to give too much away, but he said that Kirby, he thinks that if you look back through his text scroll, that Kirby was like the first coach that reached out to him. And then he said, like clockwork, within like 30 minutes, he heard from like every Georgia coach that he has a phone number for, and a few that numbers he didn't recognize. So all of them had the same message that they told him they'll be in it till the end, just like we've talked about Justice Terry before, and he had a lot of respect for that. And just by the way that he's talking, he doesn't sound 100% committed to USC right now. I don't even think USC's getting an official visit. From what it looks like, at least what he told me last week, he's taken Georgia, FSU, a few other schools that are pursuing him really, really hard. Oklahoma.
Really, the Sooners.
Yeah, he was funny enough. Back on junior day, he plays basketball at Warner Robins too, and he's like their starting center, and they're supposed to be playing at Cedar Shoals right down the street from my house here in Athens, and I show up and I sit there for like almost the entire first half, and I remember texting Jed. I was like, did he plays basketball right? And Jed was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then I go look at his Twitter. Little do I know he's in Norman, Oklahoma. And I told him about that, and he laughed, and he was like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I didn't play that day because it was a non-region. And I also saw him play basketball against Wander Barrow too. Man, he's a freak on the basketball court. He's a pretty big athlete. And if you could pull up those photos of him, those pictures I took, he looks like a 35-year-old man in a 17-year-old body. I mean, he looks like he's played in the NFL for a decade at least, just with his size.
Yeah, it looks unfair. I feel bad for him. Trent, is he still in your projected class?
He is. Him and Justice Terry are. So
I did ask you about this last week, but I just want to double check just in case something's changed over the week.
No, he is still in it. He's. I mean, you tear. I'm sure Georgia would like to pair him up with a certain other commit that they have. I can't pronounce his name, but Jed. Come on, Darren.
Ikenagban.
They like to pair them up on either edge and have a little Lorenzo Carter, Davin Bellamy top pass rush. But yeah, I mean, I like this kid. What did you say he was up to, Lance? Six. I know he's 6'4", 6'5", but what is he weight wise?
I think he's around 250, 255, I believe is what he told me. I mean, I don't think that 240 is right now. I mean, but I mean, he's cut. I mean, he's cut. He stays in great shape.
That's a very similar size to Michael Williams when he came in. Michael might have been a little heavier, probably 265 or so. But yeah, I like his game. I mean, he's like I said in the past, I don't feel as confident with him as I do Justice Terry, and it might be because I don't have as many connections around him as I do Justice. But I love Isaiah's game. I mean, we talked about this for a while. This could be a very special defensive class, and you feel like every class Georgia signs has future first round picks on the defensive side of the ball, because you look at it's always top heavy on defense. It's always will be with Kirby Smart, but this class has the potential to be top all of them because of how stout the front seven is. Not only in the state of Georgia, but the guys that they're going after. This could be a very special class in that front seven.
I really like the way that he builds inside out. I mean, been doing this a long time, and I don't say I feel cocky when I'm talking about Georgia now, but I do feel a confidence, because people have always made fun of me for being the having the Larry Munsonisms. You know, it was like, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And it's just, there's been too many heartbreaking moments that we were there for on the field. It just, hey, you get used to it. But now I'm like, you start walking around with swagger, because you're like, okay, worst case scenario, Georgia's going out to face Texas. You know you're not going to line up and just get blown off the ball, offense or defense. It's just not going to happen. So you're like, now let's twinkle around the edges with the skill guys. And we spent the first half of the show talking about wide receivers. Georgia's has had great quarterbacks. They've got a lineup of good quarterbacks right now. You've got great running backs, your RBU. Josh Crawford inherits a stacked running back room. Now you can go in the portal, pull out a Trevor Etienne. I'm just saying that Kirby Smart's out recruiting everybody. He's out working everybody. The one thing he's not doing is out paying everybody. And that could be a burr in the saddle, if you will, going forward. But really like the way that Georgia builds inside out. And if you get a Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson, I won't even try to say it. I'm with you there. And again, last year, 5 defensive linemen, 6 offensive linemen.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Speaking of offensive linemen, switch gears. Talk to me about Zaire Addison. And why are we talking about him first? Tell us who he is and why we're talking about him.
Zaire Addison's he's a 4-star offensive tackle out of Sumner, right at Riverview, Florida, right around Tampa. I think Roddy, you were impressed with him at one of the camps you went to, and then I went to go
Orlando.
Yeah, and then like a week or so later, I went to up there at Lake Point in Emerson near Cartersville, and it was 7-on-7 camp, and he was there because I did not know that they now have 5-on-5 offensive linemen, defensive linemen competitions, and I got to see him, and man, he's super impressive. I say 6'5". He's probably, I think he weighs up to like 295, around 300 now is what he told me. But I mean, he moves for a big man, and he told me that Georgia's recruiting him, mainly as a tackle. But he was like, dude, I play, all 5 positions. He's played all 5 positions on the offensive line at his high school. So he's kind of a Stacy Searles kind of thinks of him as kind of a Swiss Army knife.
No, you're right. We actually have a question. Let me find it from the dog vent. It was about from Space Pope 3 says, who's more likely at center, Glover or Cortez Smith? Who's a better tackle prospect, David Sanders or Jackson Cantwell in 2026? When he mentioned who's more likely at center, Glover or Cortez Smith, my first thought was Zaire Addison.
Yeah,
could be. Yeah, I mean, I think Addison is one of those guys. I think they want Cortez Smith as a center, and they wanted him as a center for a long time. And I think you probably get him. But Addison, in the event you didn't get Cortez Smith, yeah, he could probably. I mean, what do we always at 6'5", 285? So that screams a guy who could play center, could play guard. If you add some weight to him, maybe play tackle. And I don't know what his weight. He could be over 300 pounds now, for all I know. But very, very, he's kind of in the mold of a David Sanders or a Josh Petty in terms of just being really, really, really athletic. I don't think you would stick at David Sanders at guard just because he's kind of taller and leaner and longer. But yeah, Addison is a very impressive guy. He'll be in Athens on an official visit this weekend with some of the scavenger hunt guys. And yeah, Georgia's got, I think, Lance, you said in the story you had, it's going to be his first time on campus.
I think it's his first or second. I think he camped at Georgia 2 years ago.
A long time ago. So now first time either way, maybe like now that Georgia is seriously involved in this thing. So big opportunity ahead for Stacy Searles and company this weekend.
Another one of Trent's incredibly versatile players. And again, I'm not saying, it wasn't that, this should be Georgia's center going forward. I think he's a great guard. He could play tackle. I think he's a all SEC guard. Hell, maybe all American. He's really good. But that was just that versatility. Where do you play on the line? I feel like we spend more of our time than ever before asking, where does Georgia want you? Because we know you can play 3 different spots. Half the time we're saying, which side of the ball do they want you to play on? Zaire lined up on defense at one of those camps and was lights out. So.
And that's what I feel like is different about this staff than when you look back at the Mark Richt days. Is you go to high school games and every one of these guys that Georgia's recruiting, no matter what they're might play at the next level, they're left tackles on their high school team. They're the best. They're the best athlete on their on that offensive line. But if you go back to the Mark Richt days, there was a lot of offensive guards that you're recruiting to try to play offensive tackle. You can work them outside in, but it's hard to work them inside out. And I think that's where this staff is completely different than the way it was like 15 years ago, because they have the right idea of what they're looking for, and guys that are versatile. That if you can play left tackle in high school, or for these major or in Georgia high school football, you can play inside, or you can play center, or we'll find out different positions you can play. But if you can play left tackle, we'll cross chain you when you get to Athens.
Yeah, you can play cornerback. We can drop you to safety. You can play edge and stop these Georgia offenses. We got a spot for you at inside linebacker. Come on, I'm with you there. Lance, you were asking about the photos of Isaiah Gibson.
Yeah.
God, money.
Folks, if you're listening to the audio version of this, you're watching 4 grown men go, damn.
He literally looks like he would be 6'2" in this picture, like a 6'2" Nakobe Dean type linebacker, and he's 6'5", 260, 255. He's ready.
That's about as good as you're going to carry 255 or 260 or whatever he is.
Yeah.
But the guy we were just talking about, Zaire Addison, same way as an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Slim, I'm like, dude, what do you wear? 38, 36? he ain't no 44 waist. That kid's svelte, so he can move. So again, Georgia goes against the best athletes, and they get them who can play multiple positions, and then they kick your teeth in when you line up. So that's how it goes. One of the advantages they have, and one of the reasons they get these kids to come, is the event that's going on this weekend, the scavenger hunt. Jed, tell folks, who new viewers, if you will, what's up with the Georgia scavenger hunt?
Yeah, it's been going on, Trent. You might know. I know it's been every year since I started. I don't know if Kirby's done it every year or not, but it's basically the visitors divide up into teams, usually by position, and they kind of go all around campus. They see different campus landmarks. You got to find a picture, take a picture of Kirby Smart. It's kind of like a fun day to hang out with your coaches outside of position meetings or whatever. It's really, really successful. Someone mentioned on the board earlier, last year it was Latavius Johnson was there. I believe Joseph Jonah, John Ye, and Justin Williams from Texas were there. KJ Bolden was there. It's a huge event for the current class in focus. We mentioned Zaire Addison going to be unofficial. Bo Jackson, the running back, not that one. The one from Ohio is going to be on official visit. Marcus Harris will be unofficial, and Phillip Bell, a receiver from California, will be unofficial. Isaiah Gibson is expected in town unofficially. His official visit is in a couple weeks.
I think it's not next week, but the
first weekend, right? May 31st through June 2nd. So 2 visits in a 2-week span essentially for Isaiah Gibson. Bo Walker is there. I'm sure
we talk about him back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. So I'm sure most, if not all, of the 25 commits will be there. I mean, maybe not Ryan Montgomery, just being from Ohio. Brock Harris, a 26 tight end who Todd Hartley is very high on, will be there. The unofficial list is kind of going to get fleshed out throughout the week, but this is a chance for – it's a priority target day for sure. Like, it's a lot of –
You should really bump Bo Walker's ranking up too. While you're
I should
at
do
it.
what?
You should really bump Bo Walker's ranking up too, because
I should bump up Bo Walker. Really good. Yeah. So it's if you are invited to the scavenger hunt, because last year Quintavious Johnson showed up. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. We don't know a ton about this Johnson kid, and then 2-3 weeks later he ends up committed, and he has had a pretty solid spring. So, yeah, those are the 4 officials, and then I would expect some priority guys at most every position to be filing in throughout the weekend.
I like this question from Howard Eubanks. How many commits or silent commits after the scavenger hunt? I don't know how many that you'll find out about, but I mean this is one of those events that moves kids along in their recruitment.
And you see a lot of schools have these like outside official visits. Like there's cookouts. There's Oklahoma has a barbecue in the stadium, I think. Every school kind of has an event like this, but the scavenger hunt kind of deal is one of the more unique ones I've seen, because there's a competition involved. Every year we talk to kids like, yeah, Coach Hartley stole the golf cart keys out of Coach Scott's golf cart. Like there's all kind of stuff like that going on.
There's subterfuge and alliance
coaches a little bit. It's fun, and it also kind of helps you build connections do sort of mean something in recruiting. So it helps you kind of further those a little bit with position coaches, with Kirby, everybody on the recruiting staffers are all over the place on Saturday as well. So big day to build relationships with everybody on staff for these guys.
If you've gone through adversity with somebody, you're closer to them, or you kill them, one of the two. If you've gone through a competition and you've got a teammate, and it's you and so you got Isaiah Gibson and Justice Terry, they're both there, and they're paired up with a Georgia commit and a Georgia player, and you got a Georgia staffer, and they're with a coach, and that coach steals the keys of another coach, so that even though you both find out where Kirby Smart is and you have to go get the picture to mark it off, the other team can't get there because you've got the keys to their golf cart. You're laughing about it as you tear across campus. You learn where everything is on campus. You find out what life's like there. You have an event. The scavenger hunt to me sounds like something in the 1970s, kind of old school, but the kids have so much fun doing it. Mm-hmm. And you create this camaraderie and this competition, and these guys, you see yourself there more.
And I mean, for these kids, at this point, like I said, it's mostly the juniors, rising seniors. So you're taking a ton of visits in your recruitment, and a lot of, like, you're coming off spring practice, and every spring practice you go to a place and you watch a practice, you sit in on a film session, and then, official visits are fun, but not that I've ever been on one, obviously, but I would imagine it's all you get there. You do the photo shoot and you have dinner. And so this is a very unique experience as far as recruiting visits go. And I think it sticks in the minds of a lot of these guys as they're making these decisions and evaluating these schools, like, oh yeah, I had a lot of fun at Georgia on that scavenger. And it was a very unique thing that separates itself from a lot of the other visits these guys take.
Yeah, I'm not going to bust on Oklahoma having a barbecue. I'd love to go to barbecue in Oklahoma or Texas. Absolutely. But sitting around eating food with guys versus this seems like more fun. So anyway, we will have a lot more coverage of that next week. But the list is already on the board at ujsports.com. We're not showing it all to you right now. That would be unfair to the members at UJ Sports. We can't give away all the guys that will be here, but we will definitely talk about more of them next week when they come up. Who else did you guys see? Because that's what I know you got more updates. Well, let me put it this way. Who else are you going to see? Because you've talked about some of the guys that you saw. We know these guys are coming in this weekend. Jeb, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, you're going to be in South Georgia, down around Savannah to Valdosta. Lance, you're on the road. Trent's got all his kids graduating from 47, first grade, second grade, third. I think he has 19 kids. So Trent's doing that. I've got family coming into town for my niece's graduation, so we won't be on the road, but you guys are. So who can we expect to talk about updates next week?
Yeah, I'm going to see Elijah Griffin tomorrow. On the topic of guys, your 5-star defensive lineman on the topic of Georgia not getting pushed around in the trenches. He's a guy that Georgia wants really bad. And then Wednesday, I'm going to see Todd Robinson in Valdosta, who's a running back who Georgia offered and has kind of emerged as a guy who wouldn't be shocked if that's the kind of guy who ends up at the scavenger hunt, a guy who A, Georgia really wants, and B, might not be as familiar with campus just because he's a newer target. Now that I kind of think about it, wouldn't shock me at all if he's on campus this weekend. But going to see him on Wednesday. Lance, you're going to see.
I plan on going. This is all Wednesday, and hopefully driving back to Athens to Jessup to go interview Tavian Wallace, who we had an update on about a month ago. Georgia kid out of Wayne County, inside linebacker, 4-star. Georgia kind of compares him to Roquan Smith, and I believe he's announcing on July 16th. So kind of want to go down there and just kind of get his thoughts on just Georgia since I last talked to him at the Rivals camp, and just thoughts heading into official visits. And then coming back, I plan on stopping in Lyons and going to Toombs County's spring game. Check out Lagonza Hayward, who Georgia, who I had an update on last week. Georgia offered him on February 28th. He's a 4-star safety. We all saw him. Trent, I think, on one of our shows following, kind of shouted him out as one of the players that impressed him the most. And I actually saw him at the state track meet in Commerce on Friday, and he was like, "You coming down?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come down and see it and try to get his."
Peer pressured into an update.
Yeah, well, I was already coming, and he didn't tell me a time. He was like, "Oh yeah, 6:30." And so
did he have to grill in? Did he have to grill in at the track meet?
He did not. He did not have his grill in, and not that I could see. I only talked to him for a brief second, but T-Raw, he had no contact with Georgia. I think he was kind of down when I talked to him at the Rivals camp, and because FSU is his dream school, he told me. But I think Georgia is a major player in there, especially when he got the offer. and he didn't hear from him. And then randomly last Monday, he posted on Twitter that T-Rob, Tavares Robinson, the safeties coach, went and came and visited him, and that kind of changed his mind. And so Georgia's back in his good graces, and he's looking to he dropped an official visit to Alabama so he can try to set one up with Georgia. I don't know what weekend in June, but he's a playmaker, and hopefully get some clips and pictures of him and update with him as well.
Definitely one to watch. And I thought it was a great story. It's a great update. The fact that T-Rob swings back by and just kind of changes the calculus of that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not trying to be a homer or rah guy, but just facts on the ground are when we're talking about the number of guys that Georgia wants. When it comes to the specialty spots, they've got more guys that want to come to Georgia than they got spaces. Where they're really fighting is where you have a limited number of bodies, where it's offensive line, defensive line. There's just not as many of those guys. Mm-hmm. So when it feels like, oh man, we lost out on Isaiah Gibson, Justice Terry flipped, yeah, those are the ones that are tougher to get because everybody's going for those guys.
Yeah.
Where there are a lot more wide receivers, safeties, quarterbacks, running backs, corner, even linebackers. There's a lot more of them than there are 285 to 330 pound people movers. That's just harder to find. But where does Kirby put all his resources? Inside out. So this weekend will be a big step towards landing this class.
Well, what's crazy to me is how this staff never misses the opportunity to see these kids. They're all over the place. I mean, you're talking about 8-9 guys. I don't know how many guys are on the trail. 10. I don't know. But you're talking about 10 guys having to please how many top targets you got? 70 to 60 targets, and you're having to please these kids. And a lot of these kids are high maintenance. I mean, it's just the way these kids are these days. It's the nature around the NIL and the whole the way they catch fame as 17, 18-year-old kids now. But the way they're able to go and not miss a beat. I mean, they're not going to miss on somebody because of effort. They're never going to miss on somebody because of effort. And I think that's one thing about a Kirby Smart coach team that is something that you can guarantee is going to have not been in the future. You're not going to miss on somebody because of the effort they put into that particular player.
That was the first time I learned about the kids that kind of wanted, I don't say wanted attention, but the fact that you had to check in as much as possible. Go back to Telvin Smith at Lounge. That was my introduction to, not to say he was high maintenance, but there was almost a competition amongst the coaches as who could see him the most officially and bump into just accidentally. All these.
If Florida State's contacting the kid twice a week, and they haven't heard from Kirby in 10 days, well, I haven't talked to Kirby in forever. And that's what it turns into. And I think
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So I mean, you have to the way they can appease these kids and then just stay on top of things. And I don't know, that ain't my organization. I know that he's a lot more organized than I am. So
I don't even talk to my staff as much as these guys talk to recruits. So.
Your wife? Did you say your wife or your staff?
No, I do see her. she keeps me alive. But I need to check in on my son. It's like, where are you at, boy?
It's important.
All right, folks. That's all the time we have for this week's show, and I appreciate Lance, Brent, and Jed making time and their busy schedules because Jed's written like 3 or 4 stories today. Lance has turned in some. Trent's been working all day, so these guys are busy, and I appreciate that they give us their time on Monday nights to go over all this recruiting stuff. And folks, the way this works is we do this recruiting show not in lieu of putting out content. We put out the same amount of content, more content than we ever have. This is in addition to it, and we would really appreciate it if you would join the UGA Sports site. Again, it's 27 cents a day. It means a lot to us if you are a member there because we put out a lot more behind the paywall. So if you're a diehard recruiting junkie, you want to know what's going on, you want to hear about it first, come be a member at UGAsports.com. We'd love to have you. We've been growing for years and years and years. We don't plan to stop. We keep growing our staff. We keep growing our social media presence so that we can provide as much content as possible. And my personal thanks to these three for giving me their time on a Monday night when they definitely should probably just be seeing their families and doing some other stuff. And we appreciate your time. And we'll see you next week. Take care.